All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Just confirming a couple things here, but we are all set to go. So, how's everybody doing? Happy Thursday and welcome to another Engineering the Markets. My name is Jared and it is March 31st, 2022. So, we are at the tail end of the first quarter of the year. Lots of excitement in the market as always, and just kind of looking short term here. Wanted to bring up what we talked about yesterday. S&Ps did pull back away from their expected move upper bound. So we're seeing the market still within sort of weekly expectations for the option market pricing. And what I also wanted to show here was kind of a note that was brought up by a member along with something I was looking at earlier. And what I have at the bottom of the chart here is the implied volatility. This particular study, you can think of it almost as if you're looking at the VIX. So it's the same pricing and relative performance as looking at the VIX. Same chart. If I have this study on the VIX, you can actually if I have the study relative to the SPX, it would look exactly the same. So what I wanted to bring up here was obviously some of this rally has been fueled by relatively hedging activity, releasing of volatility, bit of a gamma squeeze in certain ways, depending on how you look at the perspective of the market. And as the volatility has come off, it's worth mentioning that one, we're kind of back at a starting point. If the market's going to get similar to what we saw back in February and March, we'll obviously want to see a bit of an uptick in volatility. Right now, we're kind of flattened out. There might have been a little bit of a rise yesterday, but ultimately, these are very mild signals overall compared to what we came out of. But you can do this across different markets. And one thing that we've been discussing this week is bonds and some of the relationship that we're dealing with in regards to the bond yield curve. One thing I wanted to bring up was some of the volatility that the bond market has been experiencing as of late, as this market has been flattening, at least in the yield curve perspective. What this means is, from a comparison sense, if I look at the volatility of the SPY versus the volatility of, let's say, the TLT, the 20-year, you're looking at two products that have similar expected movement, at least in the 30-day series. And what's interesting about this is if you pull this back, TLT over a weekly perspective, the bond market, at least from this ETF, doesn't often get readings this elevated. Oftentimes you will see this come off quite quickly, and that's indicative of, once again, a possible low or just inflection point in the market. If we see volatility come off, the markets tend to rise in those environments. And as we are sitting sort of on a weekly support area for TLT, along with a weekly engulfing, I want to keep an eye on this particular market. One, as a tradable opportunity, and two, it might give us some clues as to what's going to be in focus over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, if this trend continues, then this is simply a downtrend that's taking a break. But some of these signals are a bit divergent than what we've normally seen inside of the selling in the bond market. So just wanted to bring that into focus today. And you can do this across the board. The NASDAQ technically has higher volatility readings than the S&P. So the expectation of movement is a bit higher. But in a similar fashion, we have come off from relative highs. And in the 30-day, especially, the volatility readings were a bit higher in the NASDAQ, some additional downside activity as the NASDAQ did briefly enter into a bear market. So a couple of things, once again, in focus for today before we shift gears. Crude market, heightened volatility, and I'm kind of leaving the study to show the type of wild swings that this market is experiencing from a volatility perspective. But we do have some news catalysts here. There's a discussion of releasing some of the reserve supply. The outflow of that supply is still kind of mild, but it is some of the highest release numbers that we've seen for quite a while. It's one of the highest releases that they're doing. So a little bit of relief maybe in the additional demand of the crude market. Crude is obviously down on this news this morning, and just kind of showing, these wilder sell swings here. Crude market has been a bit unstable, and we've obviously seen some opportunity in the equities market with correlated products. Let's see. I think that's about it. The only other thing I wanted to point out was the dollar. So obviously the S&P had that pullback day yesterday. Dollar came back into just some relative strength. Keeping an eye on this range, this is the idea of a possible trend change in the dollar. And once again, some early signals here, but we are starting to lose the 20 period after a moment of consolidation. So dollar seems to be either stabilizing or potentially looking at sort of a downside play. And what that means is on the weekly, once again, just kind of pulling back into some of these swing highs from a technical sense, along with a mild backing off of what is essentially a big risk factor for the market. Dollar weakness would actually provide a bit more fuel for this rally to continue in particular products. So the main discussion for today is going to be kind of shifting back into bond yields. And given it's Thursday, we're going to kind of briefly look at this, maybe cover it a bit more on Monday. I believe Artie has done a fairly good job just kind of outlining his perspective, some of the upcoming opportunities if this environment continues. And then obviously what it means bigger picture. What is the market fearful of? What are they starting to focus in on? And where does market performance lead if we're in that environment for extended periods of time? So all in all, what are some of the activities that have taken place recently? We talked about what is a bond, how it works, the dynamics of and characteristics of bond products. And then, of course, we mostly are referring to U.S. Treasuries. So you have your, T-bills or Treasury bills, T-notes, and then T-bonds, all of which have different maturity dates. Most of the time in a regular or sort of growing economic environment, you're going to have situations where most of these maturities are set up to where they are rising over time, or the yields on these maturities is rising over time. And when we look at some visualizations of this, this is often what we've seen in recap videos of discussing the normal curve structure for a market. So in periods of economic growth, you often have this kind of, in periods of economic stability, you often have this curve laid out in such a way that the structure of it looks like a steepened or rising curve. It's often referred to as just a normal curve. And one thing I like to do is kind of think about this from a futures product perspective. Most of the time, the bond market yields are presented as if the market is in contango, which means if you have a short dated product, you're going to have a lower yield and therefore lower pricing. If you have a longer dated product, there's going to be a higher yield, and that's representative of risk. If you are investing in longer term bonds, you often want to get paid a higher yield because, one, time is a risk. The more time involved in any product, the more uncertainty comes in, and investors want to get paid for uncertainty risk. They want to take the risk, but obviously have a higher reward potential. And in the event that things like inflation start to take control of an economy, oftentimes you will see investors looking to speculate as to whether or not this inflation is going to be short-lived, whether there's going to be persistent inflation, and whether that's going to eventually lead into issues with the overall economic growth of a country. So for this, a lot of bond investors will often rush to certain products in order to speculate as to whether or not things like inflation will start to grip the economy. And usually when this happens, their speculative activity forces bond products to rise and fall. Basically, supply and demand models in regards to what's being bought, what's being sold, where investors focused in. And obviously, since you have multiple options in this case, you can get sort of a rush to these different areas of the market. Now, obviously, there's multiple effects here. There's things like the purchasing allocation of the Federal Reserve. We did see that after the events of the COVID situation. And in those events, you know, the Federal Reserve can actually facilitate keeping interest rates low by buying bond products. Therefore, you know, the relationship here being that as bonds are rising, yields are falling. They're able to stifle or keep interest rates at levels that are facilitative, depending on the situation facing the economy. Now, as this starts to change, as the market cycle, and in this case, sort of a business cycle, longer time frame business cycles change, the eventual, you know, conclusion is that as inflation starts to rise, this curve will change as investors notice and, you know, represent what their perspective of future growth looks like. So all in all, what this leads us to is what's occurring now. We obviously have seen some major effects in the bond market in regards to yields coming into a more flattened state. Now, all of the I'll just say T notes are still T-bills, very short dated expirations here, or maturity dates, are still representing a normal curve. They have a nice steepening structure, still rising from short end to, in this case, the year expiration. But what's been causing more discussion and obviously more sort of future concern is what's happening inside of Treasury notes. In this case, the most representative tends to be the 2-year, and then of course the 10-year, which is the kind of the central focal point for a lot of investors. This is going to affect things like home mortgage rates. It's going to affect things like the bank's ability to borrow and loan against customers' deposits. And then of course the tail end, the 20 and 30 year, those have of course flattened out for quite a while. And that's sort of an early signal that we might see some of these future yield curves starting to flatten as we move forward into the year. So that's a very high level of what's currently going on with the Treasury yields. And there's many ways to, of course, visualize this, but Here's one way, of course, with this particular website. We're seeing, these different maturity dates represented by their yield pricing. And for the most part, we're looking at some stabilization of a flat curve around 2.5. Obviously, there's going to be some hills and valleys in between, but we're looking at about 2.5% across most of the Treasury notes. Another way you can do this is you can bring up something like the Fred St. Louis website. Here is the specific 10-year constant maturity minus the 2-year. So it's representing the spread between these two products. You can obviously do this with any of the particular Treasury products, but this one is the one that is in focus. And this is the one that, as of a couple of days ago, had an intraday inversion. So you're not going to see it on this chart, but this particular spread actually breached 0% for the first time since, I believe, 2019. Just got to bring this out here. Yeah, so we had a mild breach here in 2019. Yeah, so mild breach there. But the idea behind this is that historically, a lot of people will claim that this is a larger and definitely a leading indicator of the potential for the economy to enter into a recession. Now, there's other factors involved outside of just this mild breach. For one, usually you're going to need to see periods of GDP decline, usually in the form of 1 to 2 GDP readings. Those declines are often going to signal and obviously confirm whether or not the country's entering into a recession. But additionally, there's going to be some potential for a shift to occur. And that's where some of the technical analysis may come into play as to whether or not this is basically just a mild reading of what is now a flattened tail end yield curve, or are we going to see much more, I would say, pressure inside of, whether it be inflationary pressures or just economic growth as a whole in different sectors of the market? And will that lead to the worst case scenario, which is an inverted yield curve? And that's where we're sort of in this transition phase right now. Obviously, the yield curve being normally curved is your just general case scenario. Pretty much 90% of the time, you're sort of in this state. You have a flattened yield curve. That's usually a transition period. You'll have historical readings like that back in 2006, before the great financial crisis. And then, of course, the eventual inverting of the yield curve, which did take place, I believe, in 2007. Very clear backwardation or inversion. And from there, the instability that we saw in the financial markets. So, second way to visualize, definitely something to monitor, but short-term trade is one of those things where the, sort of mentality of your trend and your risk are always going to be in focus relative to larger macroeconomic signals. What this does is it allows us to put together bigger picture game plans. And that's some of the things that our moderator, Artie, is starting to put together. Whether he's looking at maybe some real estate slowdown, whether there's going to be opportunities in healthcare, which is often a late business cycle sector of growth, usually a bullish sector amidst a, entering into a recessionary phase of the market. Obviously, we've seen some relative strength in different sectors, utilities, energy, and in some ways, healthcare, which we'll look at in just a moment. These are all setting up from a technical sense indicative of continuation to the upside. So what this means is, as traders, we might lead the curve slightly and say, the energy trade is definitely what's in focus right now. The market is heavily situated on what's going on with crude, natural gas, and just rising inflation in the commodity products. That was sort of exacerbated and brought on by what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, along with the continual supply-demand constraints across different countries and just gaining exposure to those different products. So that is a known aspect of the market. We've seen the effects of it. It's obviously a highly tradable event, and it can be a highly profitable event if you're leading the charge, getting into position early. What we're looking at now is another potential setup to where the market may be starting to lean moving forward into different sectors. And what that effect has for the S&Ps and the NASDAQ as a whole is going to be what we're going to observe moving forward. For one, I'll bring up some charts here in just a second. One thing that I'm starting to look at is bigger picture trend lines. So for example, let me get this off real quick. We often look at indexes that represent the yield. In this case, the TNX is a representation of the 10-year yield. So as this has moved up to 25, it represents that the 10-year Treasury note is pricing a 2.5 yield. That's what its current yield represents. But if I'm looking back, and as a technical analyst, I'm looking at a bigger trend line here. The market has risen into a multi-year resistance for this product. This product is still in a monthly downtrend. We have made a monthly high that broke a previous high, and that monthly high has collapsed, leading into the effects of 2018 and of course COVID shaking up the market as a whole. That of course led to a monthly low. Now this was a low that most people said, well, there's really not much more room to go. Obviously, going into a negative interest rate environment would be a completely new case for the US, but we did bounce from there. And a technical review of this tells me that we are in sort of a relatively shorter term weekly uptrend, but we still have the potential of this monthly downtrend holding for the time being as we're testing resistance. Now, what this means is that we might start looking at bonds or different bond products as a possible opportunity, not necessarily in the direction you might think. You might actually be looking at these products as more of a long opportunity. Now, once again, I brought up a monthly chart. So this is indicative of a multi-month or potentially multi-year style of trade. But if that's of interest to you, this market is also setting up, in this case, this is the 20-year, but it is quite similar, setting up sort of in a rising trend line environment. We saw the yield downtrending, we saw the bond market uptrending. That's the correlation between bond prices and the yield itself. All that said, there's going to be a lot of setup here. There's going to be a lot of back and forth trade. There's probably going to be a lot of false signals. And the economic pressures in this market are going to be main drivers for whether this turns or whether the sort of shorter term daily and weekly downtrends continue. But bigger picture here, we need to start looking at this as a possible opportunity because this market volatility is relatively high. And that's kind of why I brought up that implied volatility. If you'll note, Artie and I were actually looking at some premium selling opportunities here. We were looking at selling things like put spreads and even just actually selling cash secured puts. The idea being that if this volatility is facilitative of premium selling, why not trade it just like any other product? So, both of us took advantage of that in the short term. We might come back to the well and look for another opportunity, but this is something to focus on. Another thing that I'm still looking at here is financials. Now, a lot of people will make the simple claim here that financials like a rising interest rate environment. And for the most part, that is true. But what's worse for financials is the spread. If the spread starts to contract, and we just saw how the 10 and 2-year spread between yields is contracting, essentially zero at this point, that puts a little bit of future pressure if that environment continues. If we remain flat, then while banks can sort of increase rates applied to their customers and obviously borrow at higher rates, the spread differential between short and long term gets more narrow. And that's obviously going to have an effect on certain financial institutions that are more exposed to those types of products and obviously deal their business more in areas that are concerned with, in this case, tightening or contracting yield spreads. So for example, once again, I'm looking technically here, the financials have broken their uptrend. They've done this recently, and it's amidst the sell-off that we saw at the beginning of the year. We are back testing this area right now, and over the past couple of days, we've seen some relative weakness in financials. It's something to keep an eye on because there are stock opportunities here that are both intraday and possible swing scenarios into continued downside. For example, Citi has been sort of a multi-month sell-off since its all-time high, or relative high. We're seeing some exposure in different financial institutions. Obviously, a bit of news yesterday with Apple bringing some of its payment processes in-house. A couple of stocks affected there. Maybe look up the news there for some of those names. And then, of course, anything to do with the real estate market. So you want to be looking for financial institutions or financial products that have high exposure to areas of the market that are sensitive to what's going on with interest rates and the yields itself. So this is, once again, an area that requires some more research, maybe a bit more work. But looking at the charts, you can start to see some of the sort of breakdown that we're getting on what was once a multi-month uptrend. Things are starting to break down here a little bit. They're getting a bit more corrective. And while this can pick back up, if the yield curve maybe goes back into a normal state, the continual flattening or the lack of, I would say, directional bias might bring these types of markets into focus. So definitely looking at banks a bit more heavily. We sort of know the story with energy. We've got relative strength in utilities, all-time high in utilities. You got to wonder, why is the S&P rallying and utilities is making a new all-time high? You got to wonder these things. These are business cycle moves. Why is healthcare breaking out of sort of a multi-month resistance, topping area of the market amidst all of this sort of corrective strength in other sectors? These are areas to focus big picture, and they're areas to set up larger time frame trades if you're looking at what some of the signals are for those late market cycles. So these are all things we'll kind of refine and cover moving forward, but as always, my time is up. So thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Trade safe and stay tuned for pre-market prep. We'll talk more then.
We go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Pre-Market Prep. I hope everyone is having an amazing morning. Hopefully, you guys had an incredible day yesterday. Good morning, Norm. How you doing today?
Hey, good morning, brother. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good, my friend. Doing good. Um, all right, guys. Let's get to it. Just gotta move something over here on my screen. But interesting day yesterday. There was some really choppy action. Just give me 1 second as I move this over. Here we go. Okay, perfect. So yeah, let's get to it. Some interesting stuff happening yesterday. Let's start here with what's on our watch list, starting with Oxy. And if we look at Oxy, let's get our 5 minute on here as well. And then you can see we had an interesting market open on a lot of these stocks. A lot of chop going on across the board, at least for me. Besides a few that were really great, like Neo and of course Lululemon later in the day. Here's Oxy, guys. The initial pop got going pretty good, then slams back down. There's just a whole lot of back and forth between the moving averages and the VWAP on Oxy. Again, tough to take an opportunity here. Here's MU. I was hoping MU would trade a little bit better at the market open, but it didn't quite do that. Later, they got really good though. After 10 was an amazing short, like many stocks are selling down here yesterday, with some of the market sell-offs happening a little later in the day. We'll talk about that in just a sec when Norm comes on with the overall market data. And here's Lululemon. They had earnings the night before, and they actually did very well yesterday. But it's such a tough stock to trade, and I realized that yesterday when I was trying to take an entry on this one. I got in on a few entries, but it is hard to hold on. The price action is just so weird. I don't know if it's the lack of volume. I don't know what it is, but although the chart looks nice now, the actual price action was just brutal. It's just not a clean trader at all.
Well, if you look
And
at it, I mean,
yeah,
if you look at it, even on its way up, it's moving, it's dropping several dollars in each
yeah,
pullback and
and the spread.
engulfing and then going back up. Yeah, so it's not easy.
It's really not. I mean, I took very low shares. Took like 50 shares, and the spread at the time was a dollar 50, $2.
Yeah.
So it's the spread is brutal, brutal, brutal. Um, So that is Lululemon there. Here is Apple again, just kind of showing you what the spy, not the spy, but a lot of stocks did. Look at just the choppiness we had yesterday. It was definitely not an easy day, guys. If you're able to get out in the green territory, you did very well on a day like yesterday. Same thing with Nvidia, just a lot of indecision. No great continuation happening there. Now here's one that Neo. I don't know what took place with Neo yesterday, but look how beautiful this was. Probably one of the best trading stock I had on my list yesterday. This thing took off nicely. Beautiful opening range breakup on the 5 minute. I completely missed this one, unfortunately, but look how beautiful this thing traded yesterday. So I'm hoping that someone took advantage of this. And then we had a couple of other ones on here as well, but that was the list we had yesterday. So let's get to our overall spy this morning. Norm, what do we got going on for today and
We just had
tomorrow?
a ton of data drop right when we came on at 8:30. Initial and continuing jobless claims, personal income, personal spending, PCE price index, core PCE price index, not Prime index, whatever that is. Real disposable income, real consumer spending. I'm not going to go through every number, and it's done essentially nothing. We're just sitting here. As you mentioned, or as we've discussed, we've had several days. We mentioned it yesterday. Some of the chop after multiple gain, 4 or 5 days in a row, 4 days in a row up on the SPY. It was, and you could anticipate a little bit of choppiness yesterday. I think we're gonna consolidate here a little bit overall, and um, we'll see which direction it wants to go. If it has enough people out there looking to get in at this point, or if they're not freaked out by everything going on.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned a good point. I mean, if you look at it from the 14, from the 15, since we started this rally, I mean, we've been running. We've been running. We only have two red days here, which was on the 23rd and yesterday. Outside of that, we've been pretty strong on the SPY. The Apple managed to get green. Okay, here we go. Apple finally puts in their first red day there,
First red candle in a
first
while,
red
yeah.
candle since the SPY started running, which around the 14th of March as well. Again, guys, we've been doing so well. You can expect, like you said, some of these pullbacks there.
There's a
Let's take
ton
Yeah.
of resistance up there at 180 on Apple.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
This, I mean, if you look here to the left, guys, you can see. Well, last time we had this rally, and it was actually a bigger rally because we're coming from all the way down from 138. If you guys remember this, look at the run, and that's where we stopped at around 180. A couple of days went over to 182 for the most part. 180 is a big deal for Apple, and these are all-time highs, right? 182.78,
Yes.
might be
Yeah.
183, but yeah, that's next couple of days might not happen today or tomorrow, but next couple of days are going to be interesting. I think we're going to get into some chop here now, and then hopefully we can break through. That will be fun to watch. Let me
Can
link
you
my
hear
trade
me?
ideas.
Because my camera's frozen.
Oh, it is. That just happened though, and I
It
can
looks
hear you
like a
perfectly
Sears
fine.
portrait studio shot from 1978, just like looking up into space.
Oh man, yeah, no, I hear you perfectly fine. Um, let's add a link here on our trade ideas, and we'll get going. There we go. Okay,
I'm
let
gonna
me
try to
bounce.
reset this, and
Okay, cool. All right. While Norm does that, let's go ahead and take a look at our gappers list, guys. Looking at the moment, we have a couple of things in here. We're gonna dive in. A few low flows this morning, leading the way here on our gap up list, and a couple of stuff on the downside. Cause see already some of the companies we've been kind of paying attention to a little bit. Oxy's down, JD, AMD. We have AMC down as well. We'll look at GameStop also. Dell. The Dell report yesterday. We never see Dell do anything unless they have some kind of news. So we'll dive into that as well. Let's take a look at LVGN. This stock this morning, it looks like you're back good now. This stock this morning, LVGN up 43%. So definitely moving. 5 million shares traded. My gappers list just disappeared here. But LVGN, it is a low flow sitting at 3.2 million shares traded. So definitely in play today. Not sure there's a catalyst going on, but I'm gonna add
yeah,
LVGN.
absolutely. They
Yeah.
published a peer-reviewed study, phase 1 trial of an Alzheimer's treatment.
All right. Okay. So that's very good news for them here.
Well,
And I could
it's
see.
funny over the years you see the three hell we've really been doing this almost 3.5 years.
Oh yeah.
This show it's
Yeah.
just crazy. Anyway,
Time flies.
we see these all the time. These Alzheimer's drugs, they always seem to fail. Like every time you see
Yeah.
these companies get these huge pops, and you look a month
Yeah.
later, and it's wah, wah, wah.
Yeah. It's so true, man. So careful, guys, with these low flow stocks. 5.1 million definitely in play right now. Just again, you gotta have a strategy, scalping strategy, whatever it is. You gotta have a good strategy for these things. So be mindful of that. Nice short interest, 30%, not huge, but it has 29% here. That could help that squeeze if we're going to move up here. Next one, ISPO. This is another one. Now this we spoke about yesterday, I believe. Was it this
Mhm.
one? Right.
Yep.
That might not be correct at 351,000. So what did it actually do yesterday?
ISPO on Finviz has 21 million.
Right, it has more,
So
right?
I don't know
Mhm.
which one is correct. 350,
Yeah,
that 350,000 is insanely low.
agree. Now look at the daily here. Did we get good volume yesterday? We did. 7 million. Not great. That's not great. 7 million for what this thing is doing. So just be careful. I think this is not the best low flow for today. Definitely LGVN looks a lot better. You are getting some movement here, so maybe it can be something. We'll see. We'll come back to it. VIPS we looked at in the past does not trade very well even when it gets volume. So I'm gonna skip on this one, guys. We've seen this many times, just not trade a decent. SGLY this morning, they are not doing a whole lot. A couple of movement here in the pre-market, but for the most part getting flat right now. So I don't like this, right? All the action are very early on and now not doing anything. So that's no good for us.
Sugly.
Yeah, it is, right? I suppose that should be renamed there. Put that S to a U. VTNR this morning, also up 4.4, no volume, not looking good. KC, this is Kingsoft Cloud Holdings.
Chinese chap. Jeez, I can't talk.
Chinese,
Chinese cloud.
yeah. So not looking good here, and
They
just don't see
announced
anything happening.
$100 million buyback program. So,
All right.
yeah.
That's what's causing that pop there. Let's see what's capping down, guys. Let's look at AMLX this morning. They are down 17%. So I do like that. 414,000. For the most part, this stock, not a great intraday trading stock. They barely get any volume. Last couple of days, they've seen some good action, though. Not good action as far as movement, not positive, because you can see here that they dropped from 25 to 10, then 15. Today from 15 as the high down to 10. So whatever it is, They are not having fun, guys, but they're trading very horrible here.
They had an earnings last night.
They had earnings last night. All right, so
Yeah.
they're not looking good. Uh, Look at this. Is this actually intraday trading here? It is. That is
Yeah.
nasty, guys. I mean, you don't want to be involved in this. Look at this. I mean, what is happening? Can you imagine being here with a couple of shares and you go from here to this to that? I mean, this is not tradable if it's going to trade like this. It's really not. Not for what we're looking to do. So, pre-market action is not even looking any better today. I think we spent too much time on this one. Let's move on. Path this morning. This one's gapping down here, 18%, 700,000. I like the drop here. Pre-market looks okay. Not bad, not bad. Possible, maybe. I'm hoping we'll find something better than that. This morning right now is looking like FU to you at the moment as far as the list goes. But here is Futu. They're down 5.3, 685,000. I mean, yeah, they're moving here. Possible for now. HPQ this morning. No, not much going on. Did HP have
Trades
any
like
earnings
garbage.
or something?
It trades like garbage. They got a downgrade this morning out of Morgan Stanley. There were a few downgrades overall in chips and hardware and such. So
Yeah, that's not looking good. Let's head over to Tiger this morning. Tiger, TIGR, guys. Again, just no volume, no activity. I don't like it. Let's look at AMC today. AMC could be good. AMC is decent. 1.2 million. They're down 4.5 right now. On short selling restriction at the moment. But I think this could be a good one for today. Jared has taken a couple of nice trades on this one as well. Here's GameStop, not a whole lot of volume at the moment. AMC looks a little bit better so far this morning. Head down to Dell. So Dell taking a big hit here. Well, a decent hit. Down 4.6, 180,000. What's going on with these guys?
downgrade. Same
okay.
thing. Morgan Stanley again.
Yeah, these guys don't trade well though. They're very light on volume for the most part. For intraday trades, it's not ideal. Guys, is my screen flickering more than usual, Norm? I mean, is that happening? I see it
Frankly, I
on my-
haven't been fixated
Yeah.
on it to be able to tell you that. There
Okay.
is some flicker.
Okay,
But I don't know if it's more or less.
gotcha. All right, I gotta figure that out. Over the weekend, we'll do it because I don't want to mess with it and make it worse. At least if I do it Saturday, I have a couple of days to mess around and get it back together. Trust me, you never want to mess around with technology when you have to go live the next day.
That's true.
MRO, MRO guys here is down 2%. Not a great pre-market action. I think I'm gonna stop here. Just want to look at two here. Want to look at
On
JD.
oil.
Yeah,
Biden administration said they're going to release 100 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. I think it's 1 million per day for 100 days or something to try to alleviate some of the supply issues.
yeah.
So
That-
oil's down about 5.5% as of right now, and that's pushing those down.
I see that. I see Oxy here, guys. XOM. A couple of these is this the actual has gas or is it something else? What is this? Has midstream.
New Moon says it's 180 million. I saw 100, but maybe you're correct.
Yeah. Anything will help, man. We need help at the gas pump, but it's just ridiculous right now. Oxy, guys, that's the one I'm going to be looking at for that type of catalyst. I think it's the best one that trades the cleanest. Down 2.3 right now, 607. And the daily looks decent at Oxy as well. We got Billy, we got AMD here. Billy not so great right now. AMD down 2.2 with some good volume. I'm going to add AMD as well to our list. And I want to watch Apple today. I know it's not on the list, but I want to keep Apple on deck because I love their daily here. And we're coming up on an area of resistance, as we mentioned earlier. I want to see how that is going to play out for them. Let's get that out the way. New rows. Okay, Norm, anything you like on your end?
Still looking, man.
Yeah, it is that type of day, guys. It's not looking.
I'm not seeing anything exceptional as of this moment.
It's not looking great at all. That is for sure. But we know that would change. All right, let's take it to our chat room, guys. Starting with here. What do we have? Scroll down. Who do we have here? Ben AMC. Okay, we have that one, Ben, already. Thank you. Tesla has low volume. Let's take a look at Tesla today. Tesla right now, yeah, pretty much flat at the moment. I mean, if you like Tesla, this will be a good one to watch. You're coming up on this just flat area right here. at 1097, slightly above the previous day close. So that could be a nice one to keep an eye on. I don't see a lot going on, as you mentioned. Volume is very low. AMD, we do have on deck. That one is looking good. Will, you're giving us Neo. Neo was so great yesterday, guys. I'm so mad I missed a trade on that. Today they're up 1.2, pretty much flat right now. I like their daily here. We broke out of this yesterday, came back down. Can we do it again up to 24? Will be interesting. So not a lot going on. Good possible for now in case things get going there. So Jason, yeah, Neo looks good. I like Neo as a possible for now. If we can get going here, if it comes back down to this previous day close and just kind of goes sideways, which it seems like that is what it's setting up for, might not be the best, but I like Neo, especially with the way they traded yesterday. Um, all right, I think we are all set. Yep, we're all set in the chat. So again, not a lot of suggestions because it's not a lot that looks great this morning. Let's take a look over on our YouTube chat. What do you guys have? MU. Did we look at MU? No, we have not. MU today, they are again big red day for them. Well, not red day. They gapped up and sold off right back to where they've been at this 79. Could be interesting today, maybe after such a red day yesterday or sell off at least. We'll keep an eye on that one. CCL. What's going on with CCL? CCL this morning. What do we have here? No, I don't see a lot going on with CCL. I just don't see the volume, and I don't see the movement on it at all this morning. So we'll leave that one alone for now. Oxy every day. Yeah, Oxy's been so good, man. It's been real nice to trade. Yesterday, not so much, but a lot of stuff was not great yesterday. But if you look at the day before, I mean, this was really, really nice. It's a beautiful sell-off, and you knew they had a nice bottom here. Look how this thing traded. It's just very, very clean. Very difficult to find oil plays like Oxy. So this is why we keep them on here almost every day here until it stops being a catalyst. You know, we'll come back to normal, and then we'll stop watching it. Here is Hood. Hood this morning, guys. It is pretty much flat right now. This is more of a meme stock. Meme stocks right now are pretty quiet. If you look at GameStop, there's not much going on at the moment. But if you look at AMC, AMC on the other hand, they do have some good volume and movement. So I wonder if they have any other news aside from just meme stuff here. But yeah, they look pretty good this morning on short selling restriction. But we do have shares for short on this one, so that's good. All right, what else we guys have? TMC. No, I don't like. Definitely do not like this one. Up 3.7. Yeah, it just doesn't look good for what we're looking to do. Also, very low price, so I'm not a big fan of that. Baba, we haven't looked at Baba in some times. Baba's been taking a break. Yeah, it's just kind of moving sideways a little bit here. Volume not great at the moment. So yeah, we'll look for that one in the scanners. And then you have SoFi. No, pretty quiet right now. Again, a lot of sideways action today, guys. Neo, we do have on here already as a secondary. We might move this up depending on how this list ends up. So at the moment, guys, we have AMC, Oxy, AMD, and Apple. And even these are not looking amazing at the moment. So let's get to our community events and announcements a little bit early today, but that's okay. There's just not a whole lot.
Excuse me, I thought I was muted and I just coughed into the mic.
No worries, man. All good. Let's get to
Still not 100%.
Oh, I hear you, man. It'll take a bit. This thing sucks. All right, let's see what we got going on for today and the rest of this week.
All right. Artie's webinar is posted, and that has been fixed. Next Monday, 8 p.m., you've got, of course, the onboarding session with Carlos at 7, and then immediately after, you've got the technology webinar with Kyle doing DAS Trader Pro Q&A. Peter's webinar should be posted. No, I believe it already is posted. My apologies. And then reversals by Jared, 8 p.m. next Tuesday. Man, I'm groggy this morning too. I took some meds to make sure I stayed asleep, and they have not worn off. All right. Mike's webinar on probabilities will be posted very soon. And then next week is Dr. Kenneth Reed with discipline and adaptability. Whiskey is not meds. Speak for yourself. Yeah, NyQuil. Mentorship session 11 a.m. will be with John today, since Andrew is in the middle of the Sahara Desert. I will say, I will give you guys a brief update. Andrew, running the Marathon des Sables, is over halfway through. Yesterday, it's essentially the distance of 6 marathons. Yesterday was 52 miles. And he ran from local time in Morocco, 8:30 in the morning, and got to the checkpoint to rest for the evening at 11:23 or something at night.
Wow.
So I mean, just insane. And I think something like a significant number of people dropped out of it yesterday. A few previous to that. Today is much shorter than that, and then tomorrow's not very long at all. So he is probably
is
3/4 or so of the way through it. It's just absolutely unbelievable.
It's
so
insane.
He should be back Monday, I believe.
Insane.
Anyway, and then I'll send out a newsletter later, and I'll have an update of where he is. Anyway, then Ed at 4:00, he'll be trading any good after hours earnings plays. Let's see. I'm just going to peek real quick. BlackBerry's on there. Nothing I'm seeing that's too great aftermarket, but maybe Ed likes something in there. And then Thor at 8 p.m. this evening. All right. Don't forget about stocktradingsimulator.com, our free web-based trading simulator. They've got it now so it saves your settings and stuff. I got a question the other day because it used to be the case that you had to go click and sign up for emails. If you sign up for the site, and that's the only way we can do it where it would save your settings, so you didn't have to redo it every time you came in, you're automatically signed up for the email list. I guess you can opt out if you'd like to, but those homework assignments come on Wednesdays and Fridays. So be sure to check that out. And then the pre-market 24, if you're watching on YouTube and haven't tried out the room, you can go to barebulltraders.com, scroll down about halfway down the page. You'll see that test drive now block. Click the button, sign up, use a promo code premarket24. It'll get you a discount. It is 1 week in the chat room. It does not auto-renew. It is a one-time payment, and it's over with.
All right, Norm, thank you very much for that.
And one last thing, Carlos, while it's not on there, and I'm going to look while I'm the spring promotion should be up and running, half off. Yep, spring 50, half off the elite annual membership.
All right, guys, take advantage of that. All right, let's see what we got here, guys. Let's take a look at our list right now. Only 4 that I really like, and I think there could be some kind of a potential in. We have AMC here, which is looking pretty good. Very, very active right now. 1.3 million, down 4%. I have Oxy with all the oil stuff happening and the catalyst this morning. We'll see how that plays out. AMD, guys, has great volume. Also nice pre-market activity, so that's looking good there. And I have Apple, which, again, not doing much, but look at this daily here, how strong this has been. And we're getting to this 180. We'll see what it does here. Again, also decent volume. Not great, but decent volume over at 748,000. A couple of possibles here. We have MU. I have NEO, which I might end up moving up if I don't find anything else to complete the list here. I have PAF here. Again, PAF is one of these hit or miss type stocks. I don't know how great this is going to trade. In the past, they haven't gotten really. Where's my pen here? Let's get our epic pen in place. They haven't really done great volume. They did a little bit yesterday, and then today they're down 20%, which is decent. Hopefully that can turn into some good opportunities there. So we'll keep an eye on that one. And then we have Futu here, which also is down 6%, losing this level of support. I like that there. And then also Dell. I don't have a lot of hopes for Dell. I mean, Dell just doesn't trade very well. Look how light the intraday volume is on Dell. Extremely light. Even on their best days where they get some good movement. Look at this day here. This is the March 2nd. They went from 50 to 54, looks like. And they traded, what, 7.4 maybe, if that, right? So they're very light on volume. That's not going to create a great pre-market intraday action for us, right? So don't have a lot of hopes for that one. let's get to some levels. Then we'll think of some questions that we can get into, guys. Maybe we'll have time towards the end of this to answer some stuff and get into some good
Got a
conversation.
question. I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we reset and get a new list of stocks to look at and trade today?
Absolutely. Can we start this day over? Because this is not looking good. So here it is, guys. AMC putting a nice base here, 24.46. That is pretty good there. High after pre-market, we are looking at a 25.63, right below the previous day close. Once you look outside of this window, I mean, you really don't have to put anything else. Highs and lows from the last 2 trading days got you covered there. Doing a pretty good job. I added 22.31 just in case you do drop there. For the most part, we're getting a nice little pop here right now. Here is Oxy. So Oxy, I love the daily on Oxy. I love this area too. This previous day close, we have a lot happening here at 57.50. We seem to always get back to this area. Right now, we're below that on our price action. We'll see if we can get something going here. Low of the pre-market all the way down at a 55, 55.44. So we'll slam me level there. And then above that, highs and lows from the last 2 trading days, these 2 right here, and previous day close got you all set up pretty good. There is a level right in between here. I'm going to mark this one, 58.84. I like this level because you can see tons of resistance happening on there, right? Definitely the previous day close, but the few times that we got above that 58, we slammed right back down. So I'm going to mark that there as well. So that is Oxy for you guys. Here's AMD, has great volume this morning, over 1 million. Right now, 116.27, low of the pre-market. That is also a good area of support and resistance. You can see that on the daily as well. With most recent, almost bouncing right to the T on this one here, on this date here. Towards the bottom, we do have a level there at 113.82. So we'll slam a level there. And then all the way down here, I don't think we'll get there today. I don't think that's going to happen. But just in case, we are at 110.51. We are pretty much set there on AMD. Here is Apple. Apple, again, just stuck between smack in the middle of the highs and lows from the last 2 trading days, right? We know this 180 is an issue for them. Good support happening here. If you want to add levels outside of this, let's look outside of this window. Look how great that is too. The 2 lows of the days right on that area where you have a good daily level. Towards the bottom, major levels I'm looking at is probably 174.40. Nothing like this here, nothing like this 176. This 176 and this 180 are major level for this stock. Above this, we do have 181.13 and our all-time high sitting around 182 and change up there. So that is Apple, guys. We'll see where it goes here. Volume starting to pick up a little bit. That should be a good one for today. And then a couple of mentions here. We do have MU and NEO. NEO had a beautiful day yesterday. We got some highs and lows action as well. I have the pre-market on NEO 22.83. We'll put that on there and we'll see. I might end up actually moving NEO up because that could be interesting today as well. So we'll move NEO up. We'll remove it from our secondary list. And I think we are all set, guys. All set with our list. For the most part, AMC trying to bounce, Oxy trying to bounce. AMD.
I just put up a screen capture of Bookmap for AMC with all kinds of liquidity up there, 29, 30, 31, 32, 34, 35.
Yeah. So here it is, guys. This is Bookmap. And this is for AMC, right? AMC, yeah. Yeah, AMC is looking interesting today. That is for sure. We'll see where that goes there. You can see the action right now. We got 1.5 on this guy, so the volume is definitely there on AMC. Right, folks, we got some time. Only 9 a.m. Eastern time. Norm, anything else that you have on your end that you like, or still not looking good?
No, I'm AMC looks the best to me right now, but you know how it can be.
Yeah, it's not an easy trader, that is for sure, guys. Be very careful managing your risk. You guys remember the open? It was 2 days ago. I mean, this thing, and I'm glad Jared was able to get out quickly and take his profits out. But look at the market open 2 days ago. Let's just zoom in here. Look at this. This happened. That's the 5 minute. We'll show the 1 minute too, if I can get there.
Let's get some questions about
Bookmap.
Get some questions Bookmap is essentially a graphical way to show Level 2, the book, and so I have a subscription to it that they reached out to me to see if I'd like to try it out. So I am, and I'm still learning how to use it and everything else. Somebody asked if there are any webinars on how to use Bookmap. Yes, there are a couple. If you just go to the Education Center and you search Bookmap, you'll find them. Kyle did both of them. There's a part 1 and a part 2. Part 1 is more of a how to set up and explanation of the software. Part 2 is more of a strategy kind of deal. So let's check that out, guys.
Yeah, definitely some good information.
And I might actually, I'm meeting with them here and there. They're kind of walking me through it. I might even be able to. They might even come in and Bookmap themselves. Their director of education come in and do a webinar or something for that. So.
So Steve, can we start announcement at 90 and do levels after that? Makes it harder for us in the West Coast. I agree. But remember, guys, it is on YouTube. You can always go back and view it. But I hear you. Yeah, we'll see. For the last couple of days, man, we've been done really early, and we haven't really changed anything, right? It's just the list.
No, we got used to have. I mean, I remember pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Watch list. A lot of times we'd come in and we'd have some days we'd have one ticker on there.
Yeah.
And now, with COVID, we came in with a whole screen of stuff to go through. I think we've adapted our style to be a little quicker.
Yeah.
And so on sometimes like this, there's not quite as much to look at.
Yeah, I agree. What we will do is we'll slow it down or come up with something, because we do at 9 o'clock. We want to be able to have stuff to cover. So we'll figure something out, guys, for our West Coast friends. All right, guys. Any other questions that we can get into? We do have
somebody's asking what subscription do you guys use on Bookmap. What I just showed, what I have is Global Plus, but I'm also not paying for it. So it's just a trial for a little bit to check it out that they let me do. What I would say is, if you look at that first webinar that Kyle does, in the first 15 minutes of it or so, he goes over the differences between those. And the Thinkorswim version that you can add on. If you have Thinkorswim, it's a version of Bookmap. It's ever so slightly different. I noticed some in the interfaces, it's some tiny differences, but other than that, the functionality, there's not a whole lot. But he goes through that and explains it. Vanessa, if you just search Bookmap, you'll see it. There's part 1 and part 2 by Kyle, or maybe somebody can throw up the link to him.
All right, what else we have? What is the name of the Bookmap webinar? Okay, yep. What else?
Here, I'll pull it up. You take some questions for a minute, and I'll throw the links in.
Yep, I'll see what else we have going on here. Let's check over on YouTube, guys. If you have any questions too on YouTube, you could throw it on there. We're looking at that chat as well. Let's see what we have. Why is it that a stock tends to gap down after a great earnings report, which sometimes transcends to the sector, example, MU and AMD? That happens quite a bit. Let's see here. When MU had their earnings, let's see here, 5-minute. MU, was it last night?
No. Was it?
Here it is. It was on the 29th.
It was 2 days ago.
It was 2 days ago, right here. So you're saying why they have it's a gap after a great, so a lot has to do too with just the forward outlook, right? So you can have great, or you can beat on almost everything, and if the forward outlook doesn't look great, that's what investors really care about. Think about it. You don't care about what happened in the past. The guidance. What does the guidance looks like? And also remember, a lot of times these companies, they have a call right after, man. And if somebody goes up there and says something that somebody interprets it differently, or the computers pick it up and say, wait, that's not a good news, or that's not good for outlook for them or guidance, it'll drop the stock regardless of what you did the quarter. So the guidance is more important than anything else.
Well, and the other thing too, that so like MU gapped up and then sold off. There is some there's some pessimism by analysts in the semiconductor space. It's a very cyclical business. It ebbs and flows a ton, where there's a bunch of demand, prices are high. We've been through that. If anybody's, graphics cards are the easiest example I could say. They're just ridiculously expensive, hard to find. So then they ramp up production. All of the semiconductor companies ramp up production to try to meet demand and make a bunch of money when the profits are high. And then there's oversupply. And then the prices drop very quickly. And it just goes back and forth between those. It's the semiconductor space is notorious for that.
Yeah, it's really messy right now. That is for sure. Let's get our 5-minute up here. Axie also getting a little bit of a bounce right now as well. Let's see, AMD starting to look pretty nice too, looking rather weak as we're going back towards the low of the pre-market here at 116.27. So we'll see what AMD does there. Good volume for them this morning. Is it just you or Norm camera is frozen? No, I see Norm perfectly fine. Try to refresh your screen. Maybe turn off your computer, restart it.
My camera?
No, I'm kidding. I know it's frozen.
Oh.
Yeah. No, it's frozen. Not just you. It's frozen for everybody.
You got me on that one.
Yeah, we'll figure that out, guys. Norm is frozen. Yes. All right, some couple of stuff here. Zell, Z-E-Z. I'm sorry, C-E-L-Z. There we go. Is this a ticker? No, it's not. So I'm not sure what that is. Not a ticker. Oh yeah, it is a ticker. It took a while to come up, so it is a ticker. What is this?
Low float biotech.
Yeah, this is very, very dangerous, guys. Please be careful. These companies tend to do this pop, get everybody's attention, and then look at this, selling back down. Won't be surprised before we're done with the show, this thing is back to 340 and there's nothing happening. Just be careful with that. Facebook this morning. Let's see. Facebook, look at the bounce from Facebook here from 185. Pretty quiet right now, but it's always a good one to watch. I mean, it did well 2 days ago. It traded very, very well. Right now, I don't see a whole lot going on. Volume is a little bit light, but again, for this one, you got to wait for the market open. You really do. Got to wait for the market open to see what kind of action you are going to get there. Thoughts on? I'm sure you probably meant Apple. That leak seems to likely be nasty. What was leaked? I don't even know what was leaked on Apple. Despite a view to cover up the news and their new M Ultra chip conveniently released afterwards. Haven't heard the news yet, JRS. But right now they're can't be too bad because they're not gapping down. They're pretty much flat at the moment. And remember, Apple, their computers are great, but their big sales, man, is their phones, right? Their phones is where it's really at. This something happens there, then you start seeing some bigger reactions, right? But I haven't read that catalyst yet. Cool. All right, let's get to some of our moderators lineup. I see a couple already have their list. Looking forward to see what they have on their end because not a lot that I like this morning. Very, very slim pickings. Let me go ahead and resize this over here. For those on YouTube, if you haven't done so already, hit that thumbs up. We appreciate it very, very much. It does help out the channel quite a bit. So let's go ahead and disable this and get rid of that. And we will bring our moderators lineup over this morning. So let's do this. Oh, I messed that up. Well done. All right, excellent. So here we go. Here's our moderators lineup, and we'll start with Thor. So Thor's looking at AMD, Apple, MU, Neo, Oxy, and Lee. Peter, a couple of IPOs opening up today with some SPACs there. Susan's looking at Oxy, AMD, and AMC. Secondary list still looking, not a whole lot out there for us this morning. Peter, AMD, Oxy, and AMC. Secondary list, MU, Neo, and Path. Watching Susan's list, greatest hits, and then secondary list coffee for Jared. Tiffany looking at AMD, AMC, and Oxy, and then Megan is looking at PayPal, mRNA, Twitter, and Lucid this morning. So again, guys, very, very light morning. We'll see. Things are going to change. Obviously, things will become more active. Right now, what is the SPY up to this today? Let's see. I'm watching Lululemon. This was my trade yesterday on Lululemon. So I'm watching them. I mean, these guys had an incredible run. 356 all the way to 390. I mean, just insane. I think there'll be some kind of continuation play today. We'll see. So I'm gonna keep a close eye on them. They don't have a whole lot of volume going on. They're very tough to trade. You got to be very patient, very, very patient. But I want to see what they do today. Let's see what else we have. So Carlos, Apple and their phones and computers are connected. Apple and Meta released tons of user. Oh, it's a release of hacking stuff. Okay. Posting as law enforcement, which leaked the giant. Okay. All right. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see how that plays out. I don't see it reacting it too bad right now. But we'll see if at the market open how that plays out. According to Ben Singer. No, Ben Singer is a good source. Yeah, Ben Singer will give you good information. So, all right, perfect. All right, guys, we are all set. 2 minutes to 9:15. We will call it now. I don't see anything else that we're missing here. To recap our list, we are looking at AMC, which is very active, probably the better ones this morning. Oxy started to come alive a little bit. AMD has great volume. I do like AMD as well. It looks to be breaking the low of the pre-market here, so that's nice. Apple also very active, and then Neo not doing a whole lot price action wise. We do have the volume on Neo. Hopefully we can get some kind of movement. So again, guys, on days like today where it seems not a whole lot going on, that looks great. This is not a blockbuster list. You have to just be patient with your process. You know, you might not get an opening play today with the way things are. It might be just a little bit choppy into things start trending, into the SPY starts doing something. We might need to just kind of sit on our hands a little bit for the first couple of minutes, but there will be something to trade. There always is, right? It's just, are you going to be patient enough to wait for that setup, or are you going to shoot all your bullets before you get there? And now you're going to be, in a different emotional situation when your setup does come up, and now you don't take your setup, or you take it too early, or you just, kind of mess it up there. So be patient with the process today. You need to sit tight and kind of wait for that setup to appear if it does, right? So just be mindful of that. With that said, over on YouTube, thank you so much, guys, for joining us this morning. We will see you again tomorrow to end the week. Remember, tomorrow there's no Jared, no engineering the markets. We will only be going live at 8:30 with Norm and I. So take care, guys. Trade safe. We'll see you tomorrow to end the week. Have a good one, everyone.
Guys. Trade safe.